Dreams. They are undoubtedly one of the most enigmatic experiences of the psyche, witnessed by billions of people every night. Often these visions are forgotten, misunderstood, or simply shrugged off as the absurd and meaningless musings of the unconscious mind. Why is that? Over a third of our lives are spent in the unconscious. It is a mysterious and timelessly ancient part of our psyche which we know very little of. We are quite literally unconscious of its purpose, what it contains, and how deep it really goes. Insofar as we can tell, it is only through sudden moments of intuition, deep introspection, or a dream that it reveals itself. A dream so strange, so profound, will make itself just conscious enough to be reproduced in the waking life. So why should we assume it to have no significance to ordinary consciousness? The renowned psychoanalyst, Carl Jung, is arguably one of the greatest and most prolific writers on the subject of dream interpretation. Jung is estimated to have analyzed over 80,000 dreams. One of his main ideas is that dreams contain symbolic and mythological motifs that are of personal significance to the dreamer. He believes that dreams play an essential role in the journey towards self-realization, a process he calls individuation. In this video, I'm going to be referencing heavily from a collection of his works, which have been compiled into his book simply titled Dreams. Similar to this book, we're going to first explore the function and nature of dreams in relation to Jungian psychology. Then in the second half, I'm going to share some examples of dream symbolism in relation to alchemy. This is by no means a substitute for the book, of course, and I highly encourage anyone interested to take the time and read it for yourself. It might be helpful to keep a Greek and Latin translator on hand, since Jung will occasionally introduce sine qua non ideas without adding the translations. So let's dive in. Concerning the nature of dreams, it becomes difficult to fully understand them by only examining them empirically, for example, their medical aspects alone. In the event that a dream may give clues to a developing medical condition, they are seldom used in this way. However, we can see that dreams do in fact concern themselves with health and sickness, and by means of it originating in the unconscious, it must be drawing from a wealth of subliminal perceptions. The dream phenomenon is no less complicated and perplexing than the problem of consciousness itself. Since dreams do not behave like the contents typical of waking consciousness, which stem from a clearly discernible continuity of experience, perhaps this loose connection to consciousness is what makes their recollection so unstable. According to Freud, dreams represent the fulfillment of repressed wishes, and this is where Jung disagreed with Freud. Freud argued that a repressed wish could only be expressed symbolically in a dream. He posited that there's a sort of psychic authority, called a censor, that prevents repressed desires from passing undisguised into waking consciousness. The most distressing dreams are the ones which aim to build up a dramatic situation, creating a highly emotional or exciting scenario which inevitably wakes the dreamer. Freud explains these dreams by saying that the censor was unable to suppress the painful effect, which caused the dreamer to wake up. Jung, however, was not satisfied with the idea that dreams are merely a wish fulfillment function of the unconscious mind, and felt that it was a pretty reductive notion. There had to be more to it. He suggested that dreams could have either a compensatory or prospective function. The former, being a compensating effect, would act as a sort of self-regulating function, where the unconscious seeks to balance the contents of the psyche that become too one-sided during the waking state. For instance, a depressed, cynical person may find relief in the unconscious state with blissful fantasies, while someone who is generally optimistic and content may find themselves experiencing the most heinous and depressive nightmares. This, of course, does not offer a full explanation either. as the reverse could just as well be true. In contrast to this, some dreams may have a prospective or anticipatory function. In such a dream, the unconscious may create scenes that seek to prepare one for a possible future event, again drawing from perceptions that are too vague to remain in ordinary consciousness, aiming to construct a preliminary sketch of something likely to occur. Its symbolism could hold potential solutions to problems that one is dealing with. This might sound like dreams could possess knowledge that is impossible to be otherwise known. Jung always tried to stay within the reach of the scientific method, and to not make too many far-reaching speculations that he couldn't prove. Thus, he reminds us that it is important not to overestimate the power of a dream's prospective, anticipatory function, and to not label a dream as prophecy. This could be dangerous, as it might imply a loss of free will, or that life is being guided or determined by involuntary psychic outbursts. Jung spent a considerable amount of time studying ancient traditions, comparative religion, and mythology, quite a bit more than Freud. His understanding of historical themes complemented his clinical practice of dream analysis, leading him to find many connections between his patients' dreams and the motifs found in these other fields. He presumed that these connections would mean that dreams should be regarded as a mode of thought that is much more biologically ancient than the mode of thought in modern man's waking consciousness. Similar to how the body contains traces of evidence for its evolutionary development, so too does the human psyche. It's possible that the symbolic language of dreams is a remnant from the earliest promptings of awareness, when human consciousness was in its most infantile stage. Dreaming may be a surviving way of thinking from untold ages ago, when history melded into mythology. This reminds me of Joseph Campbell's saying that myths are public dreams, and dreams are private myths. When asked whether it is worthwhile to look for the meaning of a dream, supposing that dreams even have meaning, Jung says, "It is easy to prove that an animal is a vertebrate by laying bare the spine. But how does one proceed to lay bare the inner, meaningful structure of a dream? Apparently, the dream follows no clearly determined laws or rules of behavior, apart from the well-known typical dreams, such as flying, climbing stairs or mountains, going about with insufficient clothing, losing your teeth, crowds of people, hotels, airplanes, and frightening animals. While these themes are common, they don't necessarily prove there is an underlying system in the organization of a dream. The form of dreams, according to Jung, may be divided into 4 phases. The exposition, a statement of the place, protagonists, and time, though time is rarely a factor in dreams. The development, a situation becomes complicated or a definite tension emerges. The culmination, something decisive happens or changes completely. And finally, lysis, the solution or result. Oftentimes, this final phase is lacking when recalling a dream, but as a general framework, these 4 phases can be applied to most dreams in practice. So what can our dreams reveal to us about ourselves? And why do they manifest in such absurd and cryptic ways where the dreamer can't even understand its message? As I previously mentioned, a dream is an archaic mode of thought, and likewise, it is a natural occurrence. The human psyche is a natural system after all, and as a result, it would seem logical to assume that nature wouldn't be inclined to make itself intelligible based on human expectations, which are completely arbitrary and subject to changes. However, there does appear to be some eternal themes within human nature that have persisted all the while, regardless of time or place. The archetype, a Greek term popularized by Jung, is a universal and symbolic image of a pattern of thought or behavior that is present in the collective unconscious of all human beings. It is within our dreams that the archetypal figures make an appearance. The hero, the shadow, the father and the mother, the trickster or the fool, the wise old man or woman, or the threshold guardian are but a few examples of archetypes. As a matter of fact, some of the greatest works of literature and fiction are the ones that tell these archetypal stories. Dreams of an archetypal nature can appear more frequently during pivotal stages in life, such as childhood, middle age, and when one nears death. A dream about undertaking a great journey and searching for treasure in a cave is essentially the hero's journey. The treasure could be symbolic of whatever the dreamer is wishing for. A dark cave, abyss, or the ocean as well are symbols of the dark recesses of the unconscious mind. We are unaware of what lies in their depths. When we set out to try and make sense of these strange visions experienced during sleep, it must be known that there is no glossary of definitions for the symbolism of dreams. Every dream is a unique, personal expression of the unconscious, and the context of the dreamer's waking life must be a part of the interpretation. Moreover, when reflecting on a dream, it is important to ask, what might this be compensating for? Or, what possible future event might this be anticipating? That being said, the dream still uses symbols that are universal to all of mankind. These symbols can appear in the most obscure ways, manifesting as archetypal characters, alchemical objects, sacred landscapes, or metaphorical events. Dreams expressed as symbols are effective in the same way that mythology is effective in telling a story as old as time itself. When we dream about fierce dragons, helpful animals, a magical tree, a walled garden, or an alchemist's laboratory, we are experiencing mythological dreams. Even a dream about two brothers fighting is a biblical and mythological dream at its core. The stories of Cain and Abel, Enki and Enlil, and the many other hostile brother myths are some of the oldest stories of fatal sibling rivalry in the world. The apparent obscurity of a dream may simply be a lack of understanding in the dreamer. Jung asserts that in order to properly go about dream interpretation, it is helpful to have some knowledge of mythology and comparative religion. However, even without extensive knowledge in these areas, that doesn't negate the effectiveness of a symbol. Understanding is more than just an intellectual process, and many things can be effective without being understood. Just look at the effectiveness of religious symbols. Evidently, dreams and their significance played a large role in primitive cultures, esoteric philosophies, and medieval alchemy. In the superstitions of all times and races, the dream was traditionally viewed as a truth-telling oracle. So let's take a look at some more symbolic motifs found in dreams, and compare them with alchemical symbols. Then I'll share a pretty shocking story about a series of dreams that Jung analyzed. I'll rattle off some examples here, and you can compare them with the dreams you've had, keeping in mind that it's possible for a symbol to have more than one meaning. The following are only fragments of individual dreams, and some are just general themes with a shortened interpretation. An old alchemical dictum states, "While sleeping, watch." A dream about a green meadow where sheep are pastured could be symbolic of a children's land or childhood consciousness, a time before the present-day rational thinking. The father archetype generally represents collective consciousness, while the mother archetype represents the collective unconscious. From this, we can have a better idea what it means when a father or mother appears in our dreams. An image of a spiral, which could be depicted in the form of a serpent, is also a symbol for indirect approach. Likewise, a tortoise, primitive and cold-blooded like a snake, symbolizes the instinctual side of the unconscious. A dream that includes an ape, with its evolutionary kinship to man, would likely be an appropriate symbol for the part of the psyche that goes down into the subhuman. It follows that a dream where one is being chased by an animal could mean some kind of instinct is trying to be reintegrated. The type of vehicle in a dream illustrates the kind of movement or the manner in which the dreamer moves forward in time. The ship is a vehicle that carries the dreamer over the depths of the unconscious. Its man-made design gives it the significance of a system or method. If you find yourself in an airplane flown by an unknown pilot, it could mean that you are being carried along by intuitions coming from the unconscious. A plane, similar to a train, is a collective vehicle, and in it you are moving and behaving like everyone else. Following this line of thought, a dream about going up or down an elevator with certain people or things can represent something coming up or going down into the unconscious. In Alchemy, the eagle, which is synonymous with the phoenix, vulture, or raven, signifies height. Birds are symbolic of the flight of thought. In general, it is fantasies and intuitive ideas that are represented this way. The egg stands for chaos apprehended. Inside it is the captive world soul, and it is from the egg that the phoenix rises. Unity and wholeness is represented by the circle, and the square represents the separation from this unity into the four elements. In a dream, sitting together at a table with people means a relationship is being formed. A round table signifies it is for the purpose of wholeness. In Man and His Symbols, Jung talks about a very special case that came to him once. A man brought him a handwritten booklet that he received as a Christmas present from his 10-year-old daughter. It contained a series of 12 dreams she had when she was 8 years old, and Jung explains that these were some of the most uncanny dreams he had ever seen. One described a horned snake devouring all the animals, in which God came in from the four corners of the earth, being in fact 4 separate gods, and gave rebirth to the dead animals. Next, she had a dream of angels in hell and demons in heaven. Another dream showed a drop of water, as it appears when looked at through a microscope. The girl sees that the drop is full of tree branches. This portrays the origin of the world, she said. In a subsequent dream, the girl has a vision of a luminous ball. She touches it. Vapors emanate from it. Then, a man comes and kills her. In another, the girl dreams she is dangerously ill. Suddenly, birds come out of her skin and cover her completely. In the final dream, swarms of gnats obscure the sun, the moon, and all the stars, except one. That one star falls upon the dreamer. These dreams are extremely peculiar, and it is not hard to see the religious and philosophical qualities in them. In the first dream, it speaks of an evil monster killing other animals, but God gives rebirth to them all through a divine restitution. In the Western world, this idea is known through the Christian tradition. It can be found in the book of Acts 3 verse 20 to 21. Furthermore, the early Greek fathers of the church made mention that, at the end of time, everything will be restored by the Redeemer to its original and perfect state. One might say that this little girl must have been voraciously reading Bible stories, perhaps, but she had very little religious background, and even her father had never heard of these stories. Her first dream also includes the concept of the quaternity, where it mentions the 4 gods coming from the 4 corners of the earth. This is especially strange, as it is different from the Christian Trinity idea. The quaternity is a very archaic concept seen throughout alchemy, being very familiar to students of the Hermetic philosophy of the 18th century. Additionally, her dream of a horned serpent may at first seem biblical, but there are no horned serpents in the Bible. But Jung makes reference to a horned serpent that appears in 16th century alchemy, a symbol of Mercury. This is some seriously crazy stuff to be dreamt up by an 8-year-old. These dreams all have a collective, archetypal nature to them, recurring themes of death, resurrection, and restitution, the origin of the world, and so on. Mythical dreams like these, while possible during childhood, are much more likely to happen when one is nearing death. As it happened in the case of this little girl, she was in both of these situations. It was only 1 year after that Christmas that she succumbed to an infectious disease, and the earliest warning signs were manifesting in her dreams. This opens up a rather terrifying aspect to the nature of life and death. It is as if crucial moments in time, like the unknown approach of death, ripple backwards in the form of dreams, casting a sort of anticipatory shadow on the psyche. The unconscious mind then enacts this event in its archetypal form, in the most universally symbolic way. I suppose I'll have to stop there, lest we be driven mad by symbols. Yet the fact remains that every night our minds present to us an interactive, visual, and sensational display of personalized symbolic motifs. And it is up to us to be receptive to this, and to seek to understand what this other part of our psyche wishes to bring to our attention. It's safe to say that at any given moment, there is always a certain percentage of people that are sleeping, and as a species, we have never been fully awake. As the sun sweeps across the horizons, it's a never-ending cycle of people coming and going from the unconscious realm of dreams, almost as if a band of hypnagogia is sweeping across the earth. Hypnagogia is the brief momentary transition between wakefulness and sleep. It is something of a paradox in that during the hypnagogic state, you are simultaneously both conscious and unconscious. I'd recommend keeping a journal nearby as you sleep, and to record your dreams as much as possible, especially if you find them to be very impactful. Over time, you will be able to recall your dreams more easily. After a number of months or years of doing this, you may be surprised when looking back on specific dreams you had during certain periods of your life. I've been doing this myself sporadically for probably the last 3 years now, and it's pretty interesting. In many cases, you might realize which dreams were compensating for some imbalance you had, and which ones anticipated an event that happened sometime later on. The interpretation of dreams demands intelligence, and similar to how the stars in the sky are a call to reflect on the outer worlds, dreams are a call to reflect on our inner worlds. Perhaps that is the ultimate function of dreams, to incline one to seek higher truths and to understand one's psyche, to nudge humanity towards ever higher states of awareness. That'll be it for this one. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it, and drop a comment about your experiences with dreams, synchronicities, premonitions, or any other curious visions. Until next time, stay curious. Peace.